Conservative new media viewers, it's time to talk about the 2012 NBA playoffs. Who is going to win it all? Who is going to be bitterly disappointed? Which team will shock the world, and which team will fail to meet expectations? We've got all of that for you coming up in this video with me, the NBA expert Paul F. Villarreal of Conservative New Media. We'll include several links to articles and sites about the 2012 NBA playoffs in the video description below the video player. This video will be an overview of the entire 2012 playoffs. I am going to go round by round and give you my picks for who will win each matchup and ultimately the championship. I am not going to go in depth into each matchup in this video. Okay, let's get to the good stuff. I'm going to go in order of the games taking place. So, for example, the first game of the 2012 NBA playoffs will be the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Chicago Bulls. So that will be the first series I talk about. The final game one of the playoffs will be the LA Clippers at the Memphis Grizzlies, so that will be the final series I talk about here. Let me add one quick disclaimer here as well. All of these picks are simply my own opinion, and they are subject to change based upon potential injuries. If, for example, LeBron James goes down for the Heat, then that might radically alter how I could see, say, a Heat-Knicks series playing out. With that in mind, let's move on. Bulls versus Sixers. My pick, Bulls. The 76ers are a good young team that plays excellent defense. They are actually a lot like the Bulls. Chicago is deeper, however, and simply has more top-level talent, particularly in reigning MVP Derrick Rose. I wouldn't be shocked if Philly won one or two games in this series and made things tough for the Bulls, but Chicago will take the series. Heat versus Knicks. I know that a lot of our regular Knicks and Jeremy Lin fans are probably eager to hear what I think about this matchup. In short, I am going with Miami here. Would I be stunned if New York could pull off the huge upset in, say, 7 games? Not really, but I just do not think that it is going to happen. As strong as the Knicks finished, and as well as they have been playing, Miami is still 3-0 against New York this year. Amare Stoudemire has looked good since returning from his back injury late in the year, but a somewhat rusty Amare and a missing Jeremy Lin could be the difference between a New York shock upset and the Heat moving on. I think this series should be fun, thrilling, and close, but I expect the Heat to prevail. Orlando versus Indiana. I think this series could be a rout. The Pacers are peaking at the right time, and Orlando has been tanking without centerpiece Dwight Howard, who is out with a bad back. The Magic have pride and won't just give up, but look for this one to be over in probably no more than 5 games. Dallas versus Oklahoma City. A rematch of last year's Western Conference Finals. I actually believe that Dallas is capable of winning this series if things fall into place for them and the Thunder are off their game in some way. Say, for example, James Harden isn't his normal self after the concussion incident with Metta World Peace. Dirk Nowitzki is capable of carrying the Mavs by himself. Still, I think Oklahoma City is ready for some revenge, and I expect them to get it against a tough Dallas squad. Utah versus San Antonio. The Jazz are a big, tough, physical team that can exploit some of the Spurs' weaknesses. Utah is also pretty athletic, and San Antonio's awesome depth won't help them as much in the postseason as it did in the regular season. All of that said, the Spurs are playing at a higher level than everyone else right now. I do not think Utah will be able to get out of the way of the Spurs steamroller here, and San Antonio should move on without too much trouble. Denver versus the Lakers. Another matchup that should be fun for the fans. Denver is young, big, and athletic. They are deep. The Lakers are older and big. Problem for the Nuggets is that LA has the pedigree and has been tested, while Denver has not been. Denver should make some noise here, but LA will move on to the second round. Boston versus Atlanta. Atlanta has been better this year than I thought they would be, and they do have home court in this series, although the Celtics are seeded higher. That said, I think Boston really found its groove after the All-Star break, and I think Boston's championship heart and precision will be too much for Atlanta to overcome. LA Clippers versus Memphis. Very intriguing matchup. The Clippers stumbled down the stretch this year, and Chris Paul is dealing with an injured groin. Memphis finished strong to end the year, and they could be ready to make a deep playoff run, particularly if forward Zach Randolph can regain the form he showed in last year's postseason. I'm going with the Grizzlies here, but a Clippers series win would not surprise me either. That takes us through the first round. Here are the matchups and picks I foresee for the second round of the 2012 NBA playoffs in no particular order. Miami Heat versus Indiana Pacers. I actually feel that the Pacers were a better matchup for the Heat last year when Indiana had a little bit more size up front. Miami is 3-1 against the Pacers this season, and I think that they will take this series and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. Chicago Bulls versus Boston Celtics. This was the series in which I was actually going to pick the upset and call for a Boston win. But the Celtics are breaking down physically. Ray Allen is hurting, Rajon Rondo is hurting, and Kevin Garnett is hurting. Boston was terrific after the All-Star game this season, but unless they can get and stay healthy, I have to pick the Bulls to advance to their second straight Eastern Conference Finals. Oklahoma City versus Los Angeles. A very interesting series, particularly with what happened in the last meeting between the two teams when Meta World Peace elbowed James Harden and the Lakers got the double overtime win. I think for Los Angeles to win this matchup, Andrew Bynum and probably Matt Barnes will have to be huge for the Lakers. Maybe also Jordan Hill, who was big for LA in that last win against the Thunder. All that being said, I think Oklahoma City will prove too much for LA, particularly on the perimeter, and I see OKC heading to the Western Conference Finals. San Antonio versus Memphis. A rematch of last year's first-round series that saw the Grizzlies take down the top-seeded Spurs. Not this year, Memphis. San Antonio is 4-0 against the Grizz this season, and you can bet that the Spurs will be looking for revenge in this matchup. I'm not counting the Grizzlies out here completely, but I think San Antonio will prevail and advance to the Western Conference Finals. And so, we're on to my NBA Final Four. Here's what I see happening. Heat versus Bulls. This is a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Finals. Everybody saw what happened in that series, and I think we're in for a repeat this year. Miami split the season series with the Bulls 2 apiece this season, but what I like about the Heat in this matchup is that the Heat no longer seem to have any fear of the Bulls, if they ever had any to begin with. In the final regular season meeting between the two teams this year, the Heat out-physicaled and out-willed the Bulls in a convincing Miami win. I've got the Heat advancing to the NBA Finals. Spurs versus Thunder. Bad matchup for the Thunder. San Antonio has won 8 of the last 9 meetings with Oklahoma City, including 2 out of 3 this season. As good as the Thunder are, and they are great, this is the one team they simply do not seem to match up well against. Spurs advance to the NBA Finals. And in the championship round, Heat versus Spurs. The two teams only met once this season, with Miami earning a blowout win. But San Antonio is a lot different since that meeting, acquiring swingman Steven Jackson and forward Boris Diaw. I like the Heat in this matchup, but I would not be surprised at all if San Antonio won the trophy. The Spurs have championship-tested metal with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker, and coach Greg Popovich is probably the best coach in the NBA. San Antonio is precise on offense and incredibly deep. If Miami is to win this series, they will need to rely on their defense and their big three of superstars to get the job done. It should be a real struggle, but I like Miami in 6 or 7 games. Now, share your thoughts about the 2012 NBA playoffs in the comments section below. You've heard my picks. Now tell us who you are picking in each series and round. Will it be probable NBA MVP LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh taking home the hardware? Or will it be Duncan and the Spurs? What about Durant and the Thunder? Or Kobe and the Lakers? You tell us what you see in the comments below. Also, please be sure to let us know what you thought about this video by clicking on the thumbs up or thumbs down button underneath the video player. Thanks. Finally, we encourage you to come and join the fun on the Conservative New Media Facebook group. You will find the link to the group in the video description. This is NBA expert Paul F. Villarreal, and you're watching Conservative New Media. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the 2012 NBA playoffs. We will be here covering the action for you as we all wait to find out who will earn the right to be called the 2012 NBA champions.